He knocks the guards who brought their food unconscious, dressed in their uniform, and leaves the cell with Kim Yoo-sin. In the music classroom, Soo-hyuk defends Nam-ra, saying that she was bitten by Ji-nam, who he didn't think was a zombie. Chong-san says that he witnessed Ji-nam being bitten and tries to attack Nam-ra, who says nothing in her own defense and even tries to tell Soo-hyuk to leave her. He refuses and stands by a window with her, saying that if she turns, he'll throw her out the window before she can attack anyone. She begins to show symptoms of the virus and has the urge to bite him, but regains control of herself. Onjo suggests that Ji-nam and Nam-ra may be immune to the zombie virus, or asymptomatic. Some of the other students are unconvinced, and Nam-ra tries to leave the classroom, but Onjo persuades her to stay and Soo-hyuk ties himself to her as a sign of trust. At the chicken shop, the detective zips the baby into his jacket before trying to escape with John Ho, who protests that the baby will slow them down and draw more zombies to them. As they get on an abandoned motorbike, they hear a young girl named Sabin calling for help. As a horde chases her, they grab her and carries her back inside. As Ho-chul shuts the doors behind them, Soju and Yoo-sin make it to the quarantine camp's outer wall, where Soju leaves Yoo-sin behind and tells him to stay alive while he goes to find his daughter. A guard catches Soju, but he fights past him and runs towards a nearby river despite heavy gunfire from the rest of the guards. The Hyosin school group finds the music room camera and uses it to record messages for their parents, though Yang Dae-soo instead sings a song about food. Onjo uses hers to tell her father that she loves him and hopes he's okay, but she wishes he'd come to rescue her. As she records the message, Soju dives into the river and swims away from the camp, but is caught by one of the bullets. The episode opens with a phone conversation between Staff Sergeant Lee Jun and his mother shortly before he and his squad are sent to an overrun shopping center. They kill a large number of zombies before discovering a group of survivors. While Lee Jun is clearing the food court, he is attacked and bitten on the neck by a zombie. Rather than euthanizing him for being infected, the other soldiers restrain him using a heavy-duty body bag and return him to the military base in the back of a truck. A clip from Lee Byung-chan's research diaries shows that he was experimenting with the effects of heat on zombies. Back in the present day, Nam Soju climbs out of the river and checks the gunshot wound in his side before heading to find his daughter. Choi Nam-ra begins to show further half-B symptoms, including heightened senses of smell and hearing. She tells Lee Soo-hyuk that she wanted to bite him because he smelled delicious, but snapped out of it because she heard him say her name for the first time. He confesses that he has a crush on her, but never thought he had a chance because she got good grades and was too pretty for him. Nam-ra tells him she likes him too. In the night duty room, Min Eun-ji uses her heightened sense of hearing to track down a bowlful of fish, as well as Jung Yong-nam, who calls her by the wrong name. Having apparently forgotten who she is, she tells him that she's starving and grabs and eats a whole goldfish in front of him. He realizes that she was bitten and tries to attack her using a thermos flask, but is unsuccessful. She reminds him that, when she confessed to him that she was being bullied, he told her it was her fault and she shouldn't tell anyone about it. Despite Yongnam's attempts to fight her off, she bites and guts him on the office table, then vomits on the floor. Nam-ra overhears the attack and its aftermath. When it ends, she becomes overwhelmed by how much she can now hear. Ong Dae-soo says he can only hear the zombie trapped under the piano in his stomach, and that they should have left for the roof while the music was playing. This gives Onjo the idea to use the music room's camera and instruments to distract the zombies and try to escape again. Ji-nam finds Sun Hwan hiding under a crashed truck. He tries to use Ji-nam as bait for the zombies, but Ji-nam drags him out from under the car and pins him against the truck, breaking his wrist and causing him to scream loudly enough to alert the nearby zombies to their presence. The zombies descend and eat him as he begs Ji-nam to save him. Back in the music classroom, Onjo tells the group they should build a barricade across the classroom and use music to lure the zombies to one side of it. The classroom has 2 doors. Once the zombies have all entered on one side, they can then use the other door to escape into the corridor and up to the roof. In the outside world, Soju breaks into the police station armory and takes a gun. killing several zombies before escaping out of a window and continuing on his route to Hyosun High. Down in the archery center, the archery group makes a stretcher for Jun Song. They plan to sneak out around the back of the school and use a path through the construction site to get to the mountains. However, Park Mi-jin drops the stretcher and it breaks before they can get further than the gym entrance. The group is forced to retreat inside. Back in the city, they successfully escape the chicken shop and evade a horde of zombies using a motorbike. The detective spots a live streamer on a rooftop, and tries to rescue him. Ho-chul protests that the bike won't be able to run with 5 people on board, and when detective goes to save him, Ho-chul panics and drives away with the 2 children. At the military camp, Jin Seon and several other officers watch as the zombified Lee Jun tries to escape from his restraints. Jin Seon tells his staff to seek Jae-jun's parents' permission to use their son as a test subject, then goes to inform Park Eun-hee that she should not expect special treatment and should stop bothering his soldiers. Eun-hee accepts this, but asks that the military send a chopper to Hyosun High School to save any surviving students, although he says nothing to her in response. He later tells Sungwon to send a helicopter to scan all high schools in Hyosun and evacuate any survivors. They successfully escape the music room, but as the students reach the roof, they find that the fire escape has been locked from the outside. Cheol-soo hears the other students banging on the door from inside, but he keeps the door locked and the rescue helicopter arrives. He tells them that he is the only survivor. Soo-hyuk and Chong-san work together to hold the zombies back from the top of the staircase while the others try to get through the door, but are surprised when Ji-nam appears on the stairs, holding one of the zombies up by the collar and laughing. Min Eun-ji walks across the field, and sees her former bullies. She sees students and teachers staggering around as zombies. She looks back at the school, remembers the abuse she suffered, then turns and runs back towards the main building. She goes through the teacher's office, finding lighters and anything flammable she can get out of the drawers to set it all on fire. On the roof, Kim Cheol-soo lies to the soldiers and tells them that he is the only survivor. The soldiers cannot hear them. Inside, Yoon Ji-nam attacks Lee Chong-san and Lee Soo-hyuk. Choi Namare becomes enraged and begins to show symptoms of zombieism around her left eye again. She grabs Ji-nam by the neck, pulling him off Chong-san and throws him down the stairs. As Eun-ji sets fire to the teacher's office downstairs, the school fire alarm goes off and automatically unlocks the door to the roof, allowing the students to escape. They try to get the army helicopter's attention, but are too late and are forced to watch it leave without them, believing that she has successfully burned down the school. Eun-ji cycles away into the city. Jang Hari and Park Mi-jin also watch the helicopter leave. He argues that they should go to the archery center roof to catch the attention of any other rescue teams that arrive. On the roof of the main building, they construct a new, bigger SOS sign. Back in the city, Soju reaches an abandoned shop and marks up a map to Hyosun High School. Jaek ignores him and tries to experiment with throwing some of the buckets on the roof to lure the zombies away from them. Just then, Ho-chul reappears, driving the kindergarten's van with the 2 children in the back. They both jump onto the van's roof and cling to it and each other as Ho-chul drives away. Later, they hit a cyclist, who turns out to be Eun-ji. Not realizing she is a half-B, detective goes out to check on her and protects her with his body when an army troop appears and points their guns at them. The group is taken to the quarantine camp together. In the archery center, Hari teaches Mi-jin how to shoot, and the pair discuss their futures. The students on the roof finish their SOS sign and gather around a campfire for warmth, singing and sharing secrets about themselves. Ji-nam reanimates again and starts heading for the roof. Lee Na-yeon goes into the music room and blocks the piano zombie's feet from hitting the keys, then picks up the music room camera and retreats to the storage cupboard to watch her classmates' videos. She picks up a bag of food to take to them, but then hallucinates Han Jiang-soo and remembers how the others accused her of his murder, at which point she throws the food on the floor. At this point she remembers being chased by a zombie she misremembers as Jiang-soo after she left the room, and how their teacher, Park Sun-hwa, sacrificed herself to save her and locked her in the music room. In the memory, Sun-hwa apologizes for cornering her. telling her to stay alive and do at least one thing to help her classmates as a sobbing Na-yeon watches her before disappearing around the corner. On remembering this, Na-yeon collects the food she'd thrown and goes out to the music room, intending to take it up to the roof for her classmates. Ji-nam finds her as she leaves the storage cupboard, and kills and eats her before climbing out the window and finding a pipe that leads to the roof. Chong-san talks to Onjo in private and asks if she ever liked him as more than a friend. Onjo asks him to leave and curls up by the wall alone, crying. After a while, she looks up and sees Ji-nam, who vaults over the wall and pushes her to the ground. He attacks Chong-san, pinning him to the floor and pressing his thumb against his eye to gouge it out. Lee Soo-hyuk defends him and throws Ji-nam across the roof. Chong-san goads Ji-nam, calling him a loser. Ji-nam tells the other students they can go, unless they want to die with Chong-san, but others move to protect him. Ji-nam attacks Chong-san and every student who tries to defend him. When he attacks Soo-hyuk again, Choi Namare enters an enraged, half-beast state and attacks Ji-nam, stabbing him in the leg. As they fight, Ji-nam realizes that Namare and he are both half-beasts and tries to convince her to join his side, but Namare refuses, grabs him, and throws him off the roof. Soo-hyuk tries to comfort her, but she turns away. At the quarantine camp, scientists are unable to trace the origins of the virus as its RNA structure appears to be evolving on its own. On their arrival at the camp, Detective and John Ho-chul tell the soldiers about Lee Byung-chan's laptop, saying it could hold a key to curing the virus. The military sends a helicopter to retrieve the laptop, and when they land on the roof, the soldiers promise that they will come back for the survivors on their way back to the helicopter. In the main area of the camp, Kim Cheol-soo encounters Min Eun-ji in the food queue. Eun-ji blames him for her death, saying that he let her go knowing she would die, but brushes it off and says she's starving. Cheol-soo offers her some of his food, but Eun-ji says she doesn't want it, she wants to eat him instead. The military successfully retrieved the laptop and started winching the Hyosun school students into the helicopter one by one. However, a call comes through from Commander Jean Seon-moo. Eun-ji has attacked Cheol-soo and revealed herself as a half-bee. As such, all Hyosun students are now to be considered infected but asymptomatic. Seon-moo orders the soldiers to abandon the students and return to base. The students beg to be taken on board, and Seon-moo orders the soldiers to shoot them, but the soldiers refuse and leave without harming the students, clearly distressed by their orders. Soju himself is moving through an abandoned shopping district, trying to avoid nearby packs of zombies. He is stopped by a man who begs him to free his wife and unborn child from their wrecked car, but Soju tells the man he does not have the equipment to cut her out. He tries to leave, but the man points a gun at him and tells him that he has to help. Soju reminds him that if he shoots, the zombies will descend, and tells him that his daughter is waiting for him. As he leaves, the man breaks down in tears, still begging him to help. Eun-ji pleads with the soldiers to be released as she is strapped to a medical bed at the camp. The scientists conclude that there are probably others like her, and it's best to presume that civilians are infected even if they show no symptoms. Eun-hee and her aides settle down for the night, but Yoo-sin grows angry at their lightheartedness and accuses Eun-hee of using the firefighters for her next election campaign. Eun-hee's main aide tells him that they're one team and they have to stick together before soldiers enter the room and announce that they are taking them to a more secure quarantine zone in handcuffs. The aides form a shield around Eun-hee and Yoo-sin joins them, but all are ultimately led away in handcuffs. The same happens to Song Jae-ik's group, with Se-bin crying as she is escorted to a cell alone. At Hyosun High, it begins to rain and thunder, the noise of which appears to cause Namare and Ji-nam pain. The other rooftop survivors weep in relief as they can drink water for the first time since the outbreak, and Soo-hyuk rips up small strips of cloth for Namare to use as earplugs, trying to comfort her as the thunder continues. Chong-san sees this and realizes that the zombies' hearing is likely to be impaired by the thunder, and they could use this to escape to the mountain. Some of the students are worried about the danger, but Chong-san offers to lure the zombies away if they're noticed. And Namare says that the storm has likely also impaired the zombies' other senses, as hers have been. When Kim Ji-min says that not all the students will be able to keep up, they decide to travel in pairs and hold hands so that no one gets left behind. Although Dae-soo is left without a partner as the others ignore his request to hold their hand, the students creep down the stairs to the ground floor, where Hari's group has also decided to use the thunder to escape. Chong-san offers to lure the zombies away, but Anjo refuses and suggests a different route the rooftop group can all take together. They manage to get to the parking lot, where Chong-san is shocked to see his mother, now a zombie, staring at him from behind a truck. He imagines her calling his name and asks if it's her, to which the zombie snarls and tries to attack him. Lee Chong-san cries out for his mother as she tries to attack him. Dae-soo attacks her with a metal pipe and Chong-san pulls him off and starts attacking him in turn. Furious and grieving for his mother, the noise attracts the nearby zombies and the rooftop survivors flee the car park, though Lee Soo-hyuk and Nam Anjo have to drag Chong-san away as he continues to scream for his mother. Chong-san has a flashback to a night where he fell asleep in her restaurant while doing his homework. Remembering the softness of his mother's face compared to the horror of her zombie one now, the archery group also attempts to escape the school, carrying a feverish Jun Song on a stretcher as he apologizes and thanks Park Mi-jin. They see the zombies running out of the car park, lured by the rooftop survivors, and decide to make a run for it. Kim Ji-min and Seo Hyoryung get separated when Hyoryung trips and falls over. She calls for help, but Ji-min panics and leaves her behind. Jang Woo-jin tackles the zombie approaching Hyoryung, and both are saved when Hari shoots it. Hari and Woo-jin are reunited and they run with the others towards the auditorium as Ji-min runs towards the field, chased by zombies. Namare detects zombies inside the auditorium and tells the group to leave, but it is too late. Lightning illuminates their position and the zombified gym team attack. Mi-jin tries to will Jun Song to safety, but he rolls off the stretcher and sacrifices himself to buy the others time to escape. Min-jae flees the auditorium and runs outside, shutting the doors behind him. The others escape into a storage room. Hari and Lee Soo-hyuk drag Mi-jin into the room with them as she screams for Jun Song. Dae-soo apologizes to Chong-san, saying he didn't know the zombie he attacked was his mother. Chong-san collapses and Anjo hugs him as he starts to cry. Out on the field, Ji-min is surrounded. She sobs as she tries to fight the zombies off, but eventually, one of them catches and bites her. As she reanimates, the military commanders watch a clip from Lee Byung-chan's research logs in which he claims that the only way to defeat the virus is by utterly destroying everyone infected with it. He pours gasoline over his wife and son and holds up a lit torch, implying that he burned them both alive. Commander Jin Seon-moo is informed that the government blockade now stretches to Yangdong, and that the area under martial law has also been expanded, implying that the government has given up on saving anyone in Hyosan. Seon-moo tells his men to strengthen their own blockades around Hyosan to ensure the infected don't make it through, and to step up their rescue efforts before the National Intelligence Service decides to bomb the city. Meanwhile, the leader of Assemblywoman Park Eun-hee's party comes to the quarantine camp to demand her resignation. He tells her that something is going to happen very soon in her district, and he wants to say that she resigned to try and prevent it in an attempt to protect the party's reputation after her death. She refuses and tells him that he has failed Hyosan, but he only repeats his demand for her to sign the paperwork and leaves. In the auditorium, Chong-san asks Anjo how he's supposed to live in the aftermath of the outbreak and his mother's death. He tells him they have a lot to talk about, and they should do it after they get to safety so that they can take their time. The two promise each other to never give up, no matter what happens. At the camp, the military scientists have been trying to replicate the Jonas virus. They explain that the virus essentially kills off its host on infection and argue that any infected should be killed. The students find a chocolate bar in the store cupboard and share it among themselves before they make their escape. They use hockey pads and tape as armor. While Chong-san dresses Anjo, she asks if he really hates her, and he tells her that he never really did. The students run out into the auditorium, using the sports cages to form a circle around themselves as they push towards the exit, but the mass of zombies pressing in from outside slows them to a stop. Ji-nam, who has been hunting Chong-san's group through the school, picks up on their scent from one of the classrooms and jumps out of the window to chase them. Junyang gets bitten as he helps Mi-jin. Knowing he is about to turn, he climbs out over the barricade to pull zombies off the cages and help the group get closer to the exit. He continues to try and push the cage from the outside even as more zombies pounce on him. Back at the camp, Sian-mu and the other commanders are watching a presentation from an NIS agent showing the zombies' movement patterns based on their phone location. The data shows that the zombies are spreading beyond the city as there are no surviving humans left to eat in Hyosin. The agent admits the map isn't perfect, but shows a model of how the disease is likely to spread. He argues that if even one infected person is able to leave Hyosin, South Korea is likely to be overrun by zombies within weeks. After the meeting with the agent, Sian-mu visits Min Eun-ji in her cell. Eun-ji writes on the glass that she is hungry before screaming and hammering on the window. Sian-mu watches her for a while, then gives the order to bomb Hyosin. His second-in-command protests that they would be killing innocent civilians that they have not yet saved, but Sian-mu argues that the millions of lives they will save will be worth it. So-ju fights his way through the school construction site as the survivors in the auditorium push the barricade towards the exit, where they find that it is locked from the outside and they cannot get it open. The zombies begin to break down the barricades and Namare uses her own body as a shield to block one of the gaps, but the students will soon be completely overrun. Anju attempts to break down the door, and is stunned when it opens and she sees So-ju on the other side. She runs forward to hug him, and he hugs her back, looking as surprised as she does. Nam So-ju helps the students escape the auditorium as Yoon Ji-nam finds Young Min-jae in the archery center. Ji-nam demands to know where Lee Chong-san is, and when Min-jae asks who that is, Ji-nam bites him on the shoulder. So-ju hugs Nam Anjo, then Chong-san, before telling the students to go through the tennis courts and construction site to reach the mountain. Zombies begin to chase them, and So-ju tells the survivors to run when they reach the tennis courts. The zombies' horde surrounds them, and breaks down the gates, forcing the students to fight them hand-to-hand. So-ju uses flares to lure the zombies away from the students and give them room to escape when the zombies notice the students leaving the court. Anjo stays behind to buy them time to escape, telling Chong-san to look after his daughter and keep her safe. Chong-san and Lee Soo-hyuk drag her away as she screams for her father, begging him to come back. On reaching the construction site, the students are pursued by several zombified builders, but with Namare's ability to tell where other zombies are, they manage to dodge them and escape onto a ledge outside. Namare tells the others to be quiet so as not to give their position away. Anjo breaks down and starts sobbing, so Hari puts a hand over her mouth to muffle the noise. So-ju reanimates on the tennis court, staggering forward and bumping into Lee Chong-san's mother. A voiceover from Byung-chan's research notes muses that losing someone to the zombie virus is worse than death, as you can forget a dead person but you cannot forget someone who has changed. Seeing the person you loved the most as a zombie means that that is the last mental image you will ever have of them. In the archery center, Min-jae whimpers and backs away from Ji-nam as he begins to turn. Though he still says he doesn't know anyone called Chong-san, he tells Ji-nam he ran to the auditorium with some juniors, then stabs him in the neck with an arrow. Ji-nam threatens to eat him and tells him to run. Min-jae tries to shoot him with his bow, but is unable to get an accurate shot as his body convulses. On the construction site ledge, Dae-soo blames Mi-jin for Oh Junyang's death. Jang Woo-jin tells them both to stop arguing, as they've all lost friends, teachers, and parents, and none of it matters anymore. Hari tries to console Anjo by telling her that her father saved all of them and that none of the survivors will ever forget what he did. She and Mi-jin go round the building on the scaffolding, trying to find a way out. Once Hari is out of earshot, Anjo says she hopes that no one else will have to sacrifice themselves for the group, because it's too hard trying to live for someone who isn't there anymore. Chong-san tells her that they should get to safety, and then talk about everything, reminding her of their promise to stay alive in the store cupboard. Ji-nam arrives in the auditorium and calls out for Chong-san, but finds only zombies, including Junyang. who he kicks to the floor. He walks through to the door Soju unlocks for the students and follows the trail up to the tennis courts. At the quarantine base, the military has begun experimenting with using different sound frequencies to lure zombies in. They decided to use drones to lure zombies into heavily infested target areas before bombing them. They estimate that this will result in approximately 10,000 human or half-B casualties. Only 110,000 Hyosun residents have so far been rescued. Commander Jin Seonmu orders the evacuation warning to be played non-stop until the explosions are detonated, in order to warn as many human survivors as possible. Namare begins to experience more severe half-B symptoms again, and a voice in her head tells her to eat Suhyuk. Instead she bites down on her own wrist. Suhyuk tells her to bite him next time, as he wants to be the same as her. Hari and Minji return and the group discuss the possibility of escape, concluding that it's probably better to wait until it rains again. At this point the military flies over Hyosun, warning all residents to take shelter underground. Namare hears the warning and passes it on to the others, telling them that the military is planning to blow up Hyosun High School. Drones are released over the area, producing a 24 kHz sound which zombies are attracted to and half-Bs find painful to hear. The military uses these to lure the zombies into the chosen target zones, and the hordes begin to congregate as directed. Enraged by the sound, the students realize they will die if they stay where they are. But before they can take cover, Jinam arrives and attacks them. He holds Chong-san over the edge of the scaffolding and bites his arm before being distracted by the drones long enough for Chong-san to push him over the edge. A soldier tells Seonmu that the zombies have all congregated at the chosen points, and Seonmu gives the order to fire. Anjo tries to persuade Chong-san to stay as he's likely to end up like Namare. Chong-san gives her his school patch and promises to hold on to hers. He then kisses and hugs her before going into the building to lure the zombies into falling down an empty elevator shaft, shouting that today, he is the happiest guy in the school. The remaining students escape from the building while Jinam reanimates again. Though he ignores them when he hears Chong-san yelling upstairs, Chong-san collapses on the roof and begins to turn just as Jinam arrives. Chong-san goads him again, telling him that he's still a coward afraid of getting caught, whereas Chong-san has nothing to fear, including Jinam himself. The two fight and Jinam gouges Chong-san's eye out, licking the blood off his thumb afterward. Chong-san begins crawling back to the elevator shaft and Jinam mocks him, assuming he's trying to run away. At that moment, the bombs begin to hit their targets across Hyosun, with the last one landing on the school. The surviving students witness the explosion from the forest and are knocked down by the force of the blast. Inside the construction site, Chong-san uses the distraction to grab Jinam and use him as a human shield, pulling both of them down the elevator shaft as they are engulfed by flames. Seonmu's chief of staff announces that the bombing of Hyosun is complete. Seonmu acknowledges this and orders the troops to be sent in the morning. He passes the command to the chief of staff and tells him he'll do a good job and that he needs to sleep. On the way to his quarters, he visits Assemblywoman Park Eun-hee in her cell. He informs her that Hyosun has been bombed, and 40% of the population is dead. Eun-hee grabs his collar and tells him he's a murderer and should be ashamed of himself. Seonmu asks if she could tell the survivors that he is truly sorry for what happened, then leaves. Seonmu arrives in his office and draws the blinds. He dresses in his full formal uniform and records a message to explain why he ordered the bombing. He takes full responsibility for the bombings and says that, having watched Byung-chan's recordings, which ended with him burning his zombified wife and son alive, he became convinced that there was no other way to stop the virus other than destroying the infected. He then calls his wife to ask if she ate dinner and chides her for forgetting. Before asking after their children, who have apparently missed school for the day, he tells her to hire a tutor for them to make up for it, and then tells her that he misses her, he loves her, and he's sorry. He leaves the phone on his desk, takes a pistol from his drawer, and shoots himself in the head. As his body slumps in his chair, his wife texts him to apologize for yelling at him, and to ask when he can come home. Hyosun High School has been reduced to a burning wreck. The bodies in the elevator shaft at the construction site lie unmoving, buried in ash. Nam Onjo's school patch can be seen in the wreckage, only slightly burnt at the edges. After the bombing of Hyosin, the streets are quiet and empty, ash falls like snow, Sabin sits crying in her quarantine cell, calling out for her mother. Park Eun-hee rips up the resignation letter her party leader wanted her to sign as the others in the quarantine camp stare out the windows. The surviving students spend the night in the forest, Indiana. The morning, Nam Onjo returns to the construction site with Choi Nam-ra and Lee Soo-hyuk, hoping to find Chong-san alive. Onjo calls out to him, berating him for leaving her behind, but they are unable to find anyone, living or dead. Nam-ra says she can't smell anyone nearby, and that they should say goodbye to Chong-san. She hugs Onjo as the other girl starts to cry. The army begins to go through Hyosin, clearing out any remaining zombies and marking cleared areas as safe zones. The group begins the hike up the mountain. Nam-ra suggests that the soldiers wanted them to die because they think all the students are half-bees like her. She says it's not safe for her to stay with them, but Onjo tells her she's still their friend and she's not going to turn. The group becomes lost, but Jang Woo-jin spots a series of yellow ribbons. Onjo finds her father's flashlight and realizes he was the one who left the ribbons for them. She crouches down, clutching the flashlight and crying. The group begins to hike towards a nearby town, following the ribbons. The scene cuts to Lee Byung-chan's wife and son, contrary to his last video, but he is unable to go through with burning their zombified bodies after dousing them both with gasoline. The NIS agent orders the zombies to be preserved and transported for study. The students reach a city that seems to be abandoned, but Nam-ra senses a horde of zombies heading their way. The group tries to run but is slowed down by Yang Dae-soo, whose leg was injured in the Hyosin blast. Dae-soo tells the others to leave him but they refuse. In the fight that ensues, Nam-ra kills several zombies with her bare hands, and Woo-jin gets bitten to save his sister. He tells her he knows she never made it to nationals and asks why she didn't just go home instead of coming back to school. He makes her promise to continue archery and to not give up before he turns. Hari begs the others not to kill him, but as he runs to attack Hari, Nam-ra steps forward and snaps his neck. Nam-ra senses more zombies approaching. Hari moves to try and attack them, but Nam-ra tells her not to die for no reason. If they run now, they should make it. As the group runs, her impulse to eat them grows stronger. When biting her wrist doesn't work, she runs away from them. Onjo and Soo-hyuk notice her absence, but when they go to search for her, they find her eating a corpse. Nam-ra screams at them to stay away from her before lunging at Onjo and pushing her to the ground. Soo-hyuk tries to protect Onjo, but cannot bring himself to hurt Nam-ra, who manages to overcome the instinct to bite Onjo and runs away again. This time, when Onjo and Soo-hyuk look for her, they are unable to find her. The remaining survivors reminisce over the people who sacrificed themselves for them as they follow a set of railroad tracks and pass through a military checkpoint. Kim Yoo-sin sees Onjo in the quarantine facility and asks about her father. Onjo says nothing, but Yoo-sin sees the flashlight and knows Soju is dead. The students are taken into quarantine, but refuse to give witness statements to help the military. Soo-hyuk asks why they never came to help them, and Onjo flatly refuses to cooperate with adults again. Outside there is a memorial fence, where survivors in the camps have left notes and ribbons for their lost loved ones. The medical cells have been emptied and cleaned out, suggesting that Min Eun-ji and Lee Jae-jun have both been killed. 4 months later, martial law was lifted, but the Hyosin survivors are still in quarantine pending a definitive virus test. Onjo sneaks out of the camp to visit a shrine she has built on the mountain to remember the students who died. On her way back, she spots a small campfire in the wreckage of the school. The next day she meets up with Soo-hyuk, and confesses that she has been avoiding the other students so as not to be reminded of what happened. She then tells him about the campfire, remembering that Nam-ra had wanted to have another campfire on the roof before she went missing. Onjo tells Soo-hyuk to meet her that night, and Soo-hyuk apologizes for not being able to defend her from Nam-ra. Onjo forgives him, but tells him not to bring the others as it might be dangerous. That night, when Onjo arrives at the camp wall, the other students are all waiting for her. Each student jokes that they told the next one not to tell anyone. and Mi-jin says she's happy to break the camp laws since the military refuses to let her go to college. Hari tells Anjo that they're all hurting, and it won't hurt less for being alone. The group climb over the wall and leave offerings for their friends at the shrine before heading to the burnt-out school together. On the roof they find the campfire. Though it initially appears abandoned, the group speculates on who might have left it, and Anjo is convinced Namare lit it because she missed them. Namare then appears. She looks healthy, with no visible zombie symptoms. Dae-soo refers to her as their class president, and she asks if she still counts as that before saying it's nice to hear it. Soo-hyuk asks how she's doing, and Namare looks around at the others and says that she's missed them. Anjo offers to take her back to the camp with them, but Namare says she still has things to do, and that they're still friends even if they're apart. Soo-hyuk agrees and says they'll be friends wherever they are. Namare says she can hear the other half-bees. She says goodbye to her friends and leaps off the side of the roof to go and find the others. The surviving students stare after her into the night. If you enjoyed diving deep into the story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated.